let's move faster. You know, at the pace of Guru Dutt. And let's start with Aar Paar.
बाबूजी धीरे चलना सारी ही जरा संभलना बड़ी धोती है बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना सारी ही जरा संभलना बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना खोए हुए सर झुकाए जैसे जाते हो सब कुछ लुटाए ये तो बाबूजी पहला कदम है नजर आते हैं अपने पराए बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना सारी ही जरा संभलना बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना मोहब्बत है वो भोले भाले करना दिल को के हवाले नाजुक बहुत है आके होठों पे पीते हुए चले बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना सारी ही जरा संभलना बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना हो गई है किसी से जो अंदर हमने दूसरा कोई नहीं जिंदगानी की राहें अजब है तू अकेला तू लाखों है दुश्मन बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना सारी ही जरा संभलना बड़ी धोती है इस राह में बाबूजी धीरे चलना
Well, why don't we start with you? You are working on Guru Dutt at the moment. Tell us your thoughts, your first thoughts on this song.
This song actually is, the typical club song, but here there is a marked diversion in everything. First and foremost, you will find O.P. Nayyar's music very different from the kind he would usually give. His music would have, a lot of sitar and sarangi, santoor, sarod. Here it is all accordion and tambourine, because he wants to create that feel of that, that sort of a Arabian kind of a vibe.
Belly dance.
Yeah, the belly dance. The vibe is very different. Secondly, in terms of the picturization, it has certain, I wouldn't say very, very, very faint similarities with maybe Tadbir Se Bigdi Hui, because it is a club dance. It is being sung by Geeta Dutt. Geeta Dutt has that extremely natural way of emoting a song rather than perfection in that rendition. You will find feeling, the bhav gaiki, which comes across. So when Shakila is actually, when we look at it from the point of view of Shakila, she is looking at Guru Dutt, and you have the point of view shots of Guru Dutt looking at Shakila from the feet when she is coming down those steps and all that. Here is a very nonchalant kind of a guy with lots of attitude. He doesn't care. He's just having his chana and he's just looking at her. But she is from the fringes of society. She's not really mainstream society. So she is a bar dancer. I mean, a club dancer. But is that her whole identity? No. Even in the fringes of society, people have hearts, people have lives, people have emotions. So the moment this lady sees that this guy is a newbie, she is kind of warning him that, look, Babuji Dheere Chalna, this is not a world that you can be very free and, you can be fair. Bade dhoke hain is raah mein. And later on, as this song concludes, this guy, this Sham Kapoor, he tries to, grab her and all. And Guru Dutt comes in between and stops her from being, sort of molested and all. And she starts liking him. So she has a heart. She is not just a club dancer, she is a human being. And Guru Dutt also, he is that attitude and all that, but he is a brave man. He doesn't care two hoots in the world. So in the space of this one song, there are so many things that you can actually look at in terms of how the society is looking at women, looking at people in the fringes of society. And of course, O.P. Nayyar giving that kind of music, Geeta Dutt emoting the song with all her heart and soul, which only I believe Geeta Dutt can. So I think this song is really a textbook in terms of filmmaking, in terms of music, in terms of picturization, in terms of singing. That's my opening thoughts.
Thank you. Madan, the O.P. Nayyar. Okay, all right. Ravi?
I'll come
Up. The O.P. Nayyar comes in first time. We have more on 19th. But tell me, this was a short relationship with Guru Dutt in that early phase.
Right.
But what do you make of this great, unique fellow?
I think obviously, like all the great music makers of the time, he left his mark. And because he did represent a whole range, although he, disputed this when, confronted whether you had any learning of classical music or not, but I mean, people say that he had. I mean, he knew it. But a lot of these people were actually autodidacts. They had learned things while doing it. We talked about Shantaram and others. Similarly, this is, as you rightly pointed out, the instruments that are being used in this song, it is a new kind of vocabulary. It is bringing a new kind of vocabulary. It's very like, most of the Guru Dutt films, except for Sotela Bhai, very urban location. That's another kind of film which we recently saw. So it's a, sorry? It's a Mahesh Kaul film, but yeah, Guru Dutt features in that. So I agree. Yeah, sorry. It's Sotela Bhai, because I saw it recently and it has an impact on my mind. So I don't have much to say on this particular, but this is a club song, as you rightly pointed out, and very breezily done, even though there is a dire warning and things like that.
The club song. Would you like to make a comment?
No, it something just occurred to me when I was listening to it right now, which is a bit like what you said earlier, that regardless of what is happening, the lyricist is also doing his own thing, just like all artists, in the middle of all the constraints. So this is purely a personal thing I noticed. It may not be the case at all. But Aake Hoto Pe Tutenge Pyale reminds me a lot of the partition that they were looking for so keenly. And then what happened, the independence that they were looking for so keenly. And what happened when the independence came. And, the whole tragedy of it. I just thought of Majrooh writing Aake Hoto Pe Tutenge Pyale. That's all. I really don't have much else to say.
I just want to add one thing here, just for your was arrested at that time. So he was for 2 years in jail. He was
40s, no?
47 to 49.
But this
is 54.
this is later.
No, I mean, I was just saying the point. He was not very enamored about the independence because he thought that he was betrayed.
Thank you.
जी मैं कुछ कहूँ अब?
Only
Okay. So, what I am seeing this after a very, very long time. So, forgive me for being very, very rough about this, but there are two rhythmic patterns which are going on in the song, and the stanza and the refrain are very clearly marked out through a bridge again. So, da 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 da, ooh, da 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 da. Da 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 da. उसके बाद वो पंजाबी ढोलक ले आता है, उससे जो है he puts it into a different rhythmic, this thing. But what is fascinating is the way the whole thing is picturized. It reminds me of I can think of only two directors working in the Indian film scene at that moment, who are actually putting the close-up into what is called in the film jargon, theories or jargon, any space, whatever. So it's a song, agar main Batesian code istemal karu, so the Batesian code is pro-erratic code, where it is not the Hermeneutic code. It's the code which is immediately sort of, giving you a clue where it might, eventually go. What is very fascinating is Guru Dutt is one person who could do this. The other person who could use the close-up to actually take it out of the space immediately available. And, I mean, there were very few filmmakers who could do that. Not just in India, but very few outside also. That was Hrithik Ghatak. Now, if you just see the rhythm, there are two rhythms that are followed. And if you see the rhythm, the way the women's face, the way we get into the close of the woman face. So here the close-up is not just a cut close-up. You actually grow into a close-up. That's a very remarkable sort of, quality at that time. Very few people, in my opinion. And of course, with the Hrithik Ghatak, it's a different thing altogether. These two people at that time were working with these close-ups, and these close-ups could not have been possible but for the larger melodic structure with which they were, dealing. I mean, there is one domain where we need to work and very little work has been done. How has the whole idea of foregrounding in music has grown from the 50s onward? He's a master, this man, Hrithik Ghatak, with Joytiran Moitro. I mean, kamal hai. Aur ye jo hai, I mean, we will forget O.P. Burman, O.P. Nayyar after a while. But the moment we come to S.D. Burman, then you actually begin to see, ye ho kya raha hai yaar? I mean, it completely sort of, blows my mind.
So let's come to that part of Guru Dutt. Next song, please. Jine Naaz Hai. Let's go to the other extreme.
ये पूछे घर दिल कशी के, ये पूछे ये नीलाम घर दिल कशी के, ये लुटते हुए कारवां जिंदगी के, कहाँ है मुहाफिज खुदी के, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है। ये पुरपेच गलियां, ये बदनाम बाजार, ये गुमनाम राही, ये सिक्कों के झनकार, ये इस्मत के सौदे, ये सौदों पे तकरार, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है। ये सदियों से बेख्वाब सहमी सी गलियां, ये मसली हुई अध खिली जर्द कलियां, ये बिकती हुई खोखली रंग रलियां, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है। वो उजले दरीचों में पायल की छन छन, थकी हारी सांसों पे तबले की धन धन, वो उजले दरीचों में पायल की छन छन, थकी हारी सांसों पे तबले की धन धन। ये बेरूह कमरों में खांसी की ठन ठन, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है। ये फूलों के गजरे, ये पीकों के छींटे, ये बेबाक नजरें, ये गुस्ताख फिक्रे, ये ढल के बदन और ये बीमार चेहरे, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है। यहाँ पीर भी आ चुके हैं, जवां भी, तनोमंद बेटे भी, अब्बा मियाँ भी, ये बीवी भी है, ये बीवी भी है और बहन भी है, माँ भी, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है। मदद चाहती है ये हवा की बेटी, यशोदा की हम जिन्स राधा की बेटी। मदद चाहती है ये हवा की बेटी, यशोदा की हम जिन्स राधा की बेटी। पयम्बर की उम्मत जुलेखा की बेटी, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है, कहाँ है।
Anyone who sees this, and it's a long time.
Amazing.
It is, and it's your close-up idea and your your Russian kind of Eisenstein impact with, you know, it came with that force, and I have not seen a better song in which that foreground and background and
I mean, the way the camera is, I would not. It's not even tracking in a real sense. It's a chasing. It's a kind of a following camera, and the way he is pulling the focus in and out, what is known as the fellow focus, and what absolutely stuns me is that here is a man who has come from Tripura, who doesn't understand the genre of Nazam melody, who doesn't understand the ghazals, and he is creating a parallel within the literature, which is Urdu Nazam literature, in a melody which doesn't exist within that field. And I mean, there are so many things happening. When I see, for instance, Guru Dutt in close-up, he keeps coming into close-up and going out. And you don't get a feel of, you know, that jerky cut. So you get the feel as if it's a continuous thing, because it's a street. And उनकी जो गायकी के अंदर ना हल्की सी मींड देखिए, आखिर में जो मींड कर रहा हो, oof, it is. I am immediately reminded of Carl Dreyer's, you know, that Joan of Arc.
yeah.
The close-up. I mean, क्या कर रहा है बंदा? What is he doing?
It's great in cinema. Ravi?
Wonderful time when you could critique the nation, and critique the nation by keeping the woman, and it's not any woman. It's a woman who is in sex trade. So there's a lot of discussion in the Gandhian era, just before independence, around the moral hygiene of society. So and this is the woman, this woman, fallen woman, etc. She's very much at the center of it. Manto is writing beautifully about these women. If you remember Moselle, if you remember other characters. So it's in that context that we need to read this. And of course, it's Sahir, right? Sahir Ludhianvi, who always kept women up front in his literature, apart from other, working people. So it's Sahir Ludhianvi, his pen, talking to those who promised a great land and a great freedom to us. So where are they? Exactly. Yeah. Chakle. Yeah.
Original Mukhada was, or the Asthai was not Jine Naaz hai Hind par. It is Sana Khwane Takdi se Mashriq kahan hai.
Exactly.
It was a comment on the Western life.
So, and so, it's also trying to bring the nation and religion in the same axis. The woman is being given a higher kind of place. She belongs right there. She is the most pious person you can have. Zulekha ki beti and stuff like that, Radha. So that parallel from mythology of all kinds, of all religions, he's putting her right there. And then Khansi ki Than, what a wonderful expression, So it's poetry at its best. It's critique, social critique, political critique at its best. And as Ambarish and I were talking, there's a percussion which is very subtle, right? But every few moments it comes.
No,
And it raises impact. Yeah.
This is just great cinema.
Of course.
All the
Of course.
reading, the manner by which he puts this, it's not even staccato. It's just something which is on a very different rhythm. And
this is just one little thing. Now, this is a little story, and I don't validate it. But the myth is that when Mohammed Rafi said, Ye biwi bhi hai, and he repeats that phrase. And the story is that he was not able to complete the sentence after that. He was so moved by the whole thing. And that he could not, I don't know to what extent this is sort of, verifiable, but this is what I heard. I mean, and then the whole thing is like this is happening in a street.
Yep.
So there are no, this thing, हालांकि जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है is the mukhra. But no, the whole idea of the mukhra and stanza is gone. It's flowing like this through the street. Of course, there are various
those bridges,
signposts.
those bridges that you talk of.
Yeah.
The first bridge, when he jumps to the two children, and that rhythm, it just is so unique. Very few have ever repeated it in later.
सारी रात निकल जाएगी इस गाने पे बात करने. So,
Juhi, your thoughts, please.
I watch Pyaasa every 6 months or so. And throughout the film, Mohammed Rafi has sung, SD has made him sing so softly. It's as if Guru Dutt's way of speaking in Pyaasa, very almost jisko budbudate hue kehte hain, very, very softly, speaking to himself. And Rafi's singing seems to be kind of in continuation with that kind of style of speaking and that very minimalist musical arrangement behind most of the songs. Plus, there are so many verses he has sung which have no orchestration at all. Is really remarkable. One, I just wanted to share with you that I saw Pyaasa on a big screen some years back when it had become temporarily mandatory to play national anthem before. So I was in a PVR, the national anthem played, people stood, Pyaasa started, and then this song came. And it occurred to me how very specifically I could relate to this song as a kind of counter anthem. So, your national anthem is talking of these expansive, vast spaces, Vindhya, Himachal, Yamuna, Ganga, and here you have Kuche, you have Neelam Ghar, you have Sehmi Si Galiyan. So many, there are specific geographies here, not just a generic thing. And the anthem, national anthem is what? It's rich with Jaye and Mangal and Ashish. There is auspiciousness and blessings and triumph. Whereas here you have, Khansi ki Than Than, as he says. There is Lutte Hue Karwan. There's actually so many things which are it appears to me as if somebody thought of this and wrote. This is specific
It has
about.
all the patriotism of the anthem. That's the beauty of it. Even though there is a deep potential cynicism, but I never ever thought he was anything but an idealist, even till his end. But idealism faces that reality check.
Who do you mean, Guru Dutt or Sahir?
And I know that Sahir's words are there, but like Raj Kapoor, Guru Dutt would never make it unless it was rooted in his own psyche and thought. No, it's okay. So you're absolutely right as a counter anthem, but like the counter of an inner voice. It's the counter that, I'm still part of that world and I see it falling apart. I see it not fulfilling its potential. I see all the expectations being dashed, but somewhere I will still keep some part of my hope and longing alive. So and he did give up, as we all know, but anyway, that's one thing.
the melodic trauma has continued.
Ironical, it's quite ironical also. Not cynical exactly, but ironical. Recall of the nation and its greatness.
Yeah. No, there's
What
many
I'm
words
saying
to
is,
be.
With the melodic trauma, it's continued. You just look at Rabbi's Jinhe Naaz Hai Hind Par Wo Kahan Hai. So, this is how things actually continue. This is the kind of shadow which is both inspiring and also very sad. So they continue to sort of chase you, you know. And it's, when I was looking at that song, Ramaya Vastavaya, I was also reminded of another song by Nayyar Noor's son, which is currently very popular, Fast Lane. There is some bridge, you know, there also. So, you know, these bridges are also very important, how these songs will live and how these, I mean,
Well, look, I fully agree.
Sorry.
No, Baba, I just wanted to make this point because it's a very important point for India studies. That I really feel that those who truly feel the pulse, rhythm, energy of India in the abstract, in the common, have this great ability to balance the deepest of pains, the deepest of expectations, see both of them shatter and still keep alive the hope that both of them are not going to shatter. And the only way, when you surrender to that, where you don't have to place a judgment, where you don't need a resolution, is when you actually do come to grips with certain answers about larger questions, not just about India, but yourself. So, to that point, I just wanted to raise that question. Antara, your take on this great song?
Actually, Guru Dutt, each frame has layers of meaning to it. Even in this song, as we have discussed, as Madanji said, the camera is following. So, Burman Dada knew that the poetry here is the hero of the song. So he makes just the violins follow the voice. And there's this big drum, like Jinhe Naaz Hai Hind Par. You're talking about the country. So there's a very faint big drum. Boom, boom, it comes. That is the only percussion that you hear throughout the song. Practically, unless for the rhythm instruments, there was khansi ki thantan, there's the tabla and the ghungru and all. And then, as you have got into that mood of that very, kind of slow rhythm, and suddenly, at around, I was discussing this with a friend yesterday, and at 3 minutes 54 seconds, that girl is being pulled into that brothel, and there's a Hawaiian guitar. And it just takes on a different kind of a crescendo. And what happens? The man, the customer, who is waiting for that girl to be pulled in, he covers the lens completely.
Absolutely.
And he has a striped coat. So, Guru Dutt, known for his penchant for symbols, is it a prison that he is symbolizing? I don't know. Might be. Because that entire coat covers the lens completely for almost like a second. So she's being pulled in and she's gone for good.
There's symbolism in
so many ways. I mean, that song is kind of replete with that. And again, Guru Dutt takes on that, I would say, he had a sense of purpose that I want to talk about what is happening with my world and I'm not happy with certain things and I want to talk about them in my cinema. And this is perhaps one of the best examples of how he wanted to put his point across through the poetry of Sahir, taking it on, and Dada Burman doing full justice, Rafi lowering his pitch to have that, as you pointed out, to match that pitch of Guru Dutt's very soft voice. So everything is so perfect in the scene, and yet that imperfection of what is happening with our world is so stunning that it hits you and it doesn't let you sleep. That is what I feel.
Indeed. We could talk on this song for the whole panel, but let's go to the third song.
ये तख्तों ये ताजों की दुनिया ये इंसान के दुश्मन समाजों की दुनिया ये महलों ये तख्तों ये ताजों की दुनिया, ये इंसान के दुश्मन समाजों की दुनिया, ये दौलत के भूखे रवाजों की दुनिया, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है। हर एक जिस्म घायल, हर एक रूह प्यासी, निगाहों में उलझन, दिलों में उदासी, ये दुनिया है या आलमे बदहवासी, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है। यहाँ एक खिलौना है इंसान की हस्ती, ये बसती है मुर्दा परस्तों की बसती, यहाँ पर तो जीवन से है मौत सस्ती, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है। जवानी भटकती है बदकार बनकर, जवां जिस्म सजते हैं बाजार बनकर, यहाँ प्यार होता है व्यापार बनकर, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है। ये दुनिया जहाँ आदमी कुछ नहीं है, वफा कुछ नहीं, दोस्ती कुछ नहीं है, ये दुनिया जहाँ आदमी कुछ नहीं है, वफा कुछ नहीं, दोस्ती कुछ नहीं है, जहाँ प्यार की कद्र ही कुछ नहीं है, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है, ये दुनिया अगर मिल भी जाए तो क्या है।
Older man, there's just no comparison between the previous song and this song. Obviously this song plays into the whole film's crescendo and drama, and it's the resolution, and it's a powerful song. But something in me, when I just oppose both of them. It's like this doesn't say anything compared to what the previous song said in a very subtle, quieter way. But it's a fundamental song. It reached our people like a few other songs do. Who would like to start on their take? Ravi, your thoughts, Baba?
I mean, it's a clarion call.
It's a clarion call.
Clarion call by a poet who has been exploited, who has also been kind of, he feels that he has not been treated well romantically, etc.
Yes.
So the personal and the political come together in the song at the crescendo, as you rightly pointed. It's a question of, how this individual who is writing, who is engaged in labor of writing, his labor is being hijacked by somebody else who is obviously well-heeled and in a position to exploit his labor. So that's the story. And yet you also have the Tawayaf with a golden heart, etc., who values his poetry, etc. I'm wondering, in the larger context of poets being the protagonists in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, where does this stand? The poet is a very important figure, used to be very important. And this was a kind of projection of the selves that were involved in making the films.
Yes.
So this is as much about, and we also, I must make this point, our cinema, in its anxiety to be different from literature, has gone to the other extreme of denying its debt to literature. I feel the whole thing has to be documented, how much we owe.
Guru Dutt's worldview at this point of time, because if we take it in context of what he personally had been through, he learned his childhood was in Calcutta, so he was very ingrained with that Bengali culture. Then he spent a few years in Uday Shankar's Almora Dance Academy, so he learned dance. Then he went to Prabhat Studios, he worked there, and after that, what happens? He was out of work. So somewhere, I believe, and I have read this in various books also on Guru Dutt, that he felt that art does not get its due value in the commercial world. Everything is a product. Poetry is a product, art is a product, the poet is a product. Everything has a price tag to it and it is commodified. And this is what he rebelled against. And this rebellion you will find in Kaagaz Ke Phool also. Because you want to make your kind of films, you want to make your kind of poetry, and that is not being accepted in the world, and that is where your conflict is. In terms of the picturization, we all know that motif of the crucifixion of Christ and how he uses that silhouette and all. Again, that motif is coming from, look, I have something to do with this world, I have a point to make, but I'm not being understood. So this song also, I read that it was actually about the British rule, not really independent India. So that is why it is talking about Mehlo Takhto Tajon ki Duniya. And to put that in context, just before the song begins, Ghosh Babu says that मैं ताज उनको पहनाना चाहता हूँ, something of that sort. So Guru Dutt is taking something which is a little before the date of this film and putting it into the context of today's world, saying that look how it is so much more relevant today. And again, that entire orchestration is just phenomenal. Burman Dada masterpiece, Rafi ji going full, his entire range of a voice. So the more you talk about this song, the more the layers come up. And again, this Pyaasa with that slight similarity with Devdas in that triangle. this Devdas motive comes again in Kaagaz Ke Phool. So Guru Dutt's again that, what would I say, his leaning towards literature, Bengali literature and all. So
But he
this
is also a Devdas
he's
by
also
nature.
Devdas. He's also Devdas, but Devdas was a person who was in a personal context, Paro, Chandramukhi and all. Here, poet is talking about his angst about society. So he's taking the personal to the general. I mean, to a larger context. That is what.
Juhi,
Yeah,
your
in
thoughts?
fact, I feel that so much that I feel maybe the Devdas comparison is not such a good one for Pyaasa. Because he's
not a comparison.
not for you. And so many people make it continuously. Dilip Kumar didn't do it because he felt it was too close to Devdas. But yeah, the problem here is, even though it looks like intense personal suffering, what he's talking about is constantly society, greed and hunger and unemployment, and and somebody tells him, the रद्दी वाला, कि ये क्या poetry आप लिखते हो hunger unemployment पे, आपने मीर और मोमिन को नहीं पढ़ा, and he says उन्हें भी पढ़ा है और जोश और फैज़ को भी पढ़ा है. So yes, Lord. But it's a very tiny thing, Ravi. He wrote the story pre-partition called Kashmakash, on which Pyaasa was based. There the protagonist was a painter, an artist, becomes a poet at this point. And I think poets were necessary, you're right, in the Hindi film. This thing. And also, okay, with the Christ reference, it just reminded me, this is also a very well-known thing, that he stands like this. He also stands like this in Jaane Woh Kaise Log the. But in this case, the silhouette is really, really effective. But when I look at it, I find something more interesting here. The Christ symbolism is undeniable, also because just in a couple of scenes before this, Mala Sinha is reading a magazine. Her husband Rahman is telling her that Vijay has died, and she hides her face to hide her emotion behind Life magazine, and there is a crucified Christ on the cover page of Life magazine. So it's all very obvious. But if you look at him, he doesn't look to me, crucified in this song. He looks to me, very confident. It looks as if he has now finally seen with clear eyes what the world is. Up till now, though he knew what the world was, he nevertheless wanted to be accepted. He wanted his poetry to be accepted. All of that has now become, with this very clear-eyed realization, it has become irrelevant, whether they accept him or not. It feels to me like the truth and the confidence of that man in the way he stands. His arms are a little high, with his sleeves rolled up, and he's standing really confidently. He's owning what they call owning that space these days. And it is, again, because of what I relate to, this realization कि this particular dunya mil bhi jaye to kya hai? Definitely, wholesale rejection. In that rejection alone is a possibility of a new world possible. And I think it is being created. When Wahida's character gives up her lifelong savings, which rationally, she's a prostitute, budhape mein kya karegi, koi security nahi hai, but she gives them all up without any of those worldly worries, जो दुनिया की worries होती हैं कि मेरा क्या होगा. When he says after this song कि जिस विजय को आप लोग इतनी वाहवाही कर रहे हैं वो विजय मैं नहीं हूँ, he refuses, I am not Vijay. These rejections are exactly where the new world is being made. And I feel Abrar Alvi used to complain to Guru Dutt about the ending of this film, that what is this strange utopia? You will go away elsewhere. मैं इस दुनिया से चला जाऊँगा कहीं और, जहाँ से मुझे कहीं और जाने की ज़रूरत ना पड़े. ऐसा कहाँ होता है? You stay here and fight. But
Comes back as Donald Trump. You ever heard that story?
I don't think I can say anything after this.
So, I have a personal anecdote to share with you. And that is that I grew up in a refugee colony. My family had shifted from Lahore, and it was because one partition led to many partitions. It was not just one monolithic partition, because there were people coming from various places, and they were all the time fighting amongst themselves for various reasons. But the connecting glue, the binding glue, were the disenchanted poets. And I have to share this with you, that these disenchanted, some of them are bigger names, very big names. They used to come to our house. Also, some of them from Urdu and Hindi and Punjabi. So it was a very interesting world. I was, when I remember my childhood, not one poet could relate to this song. Not one. That is one part of the story. The other part of the story is, because each one of them was threatened with erasure. It's not just that Guru, the poet here, is threatened with erasure. Erasure was the condition of life at that time. And that condition of life extended to many, many other things. So these people had a kind of a multiplicity which actually defined their singularity as poets. What I find very fascinating in this song, and I'm saying this despite my differences, I'm not greatly enamored of the song, is a strategy of rising into the frame. If you see the entire thing, there are two ways in which the frame is claimed. One is the frame is given. For instance, whenever Rahman comes into the frame, the camera is here, it's slightly sort of lower angle, and you look at him, frightened, enraged, and so on and so forth. This man, the man who is erased, also literally in the film, because his name is gone, is reclaiming, I mean, the Christ thing is there, but for me, the more important thing is rising into the frame. And if you were to count the number of times in this particular song, he rises into the frame, it's an act of reclamation, that I have to, no matter what, no matter how much you erase me, I'm here and I rise into the frame. That for me is the defining feature of this song. But I think as poetry, it doesn't really move me much.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's come to the last great poetic song which moves all of us. Fourth song, please.
मैं नाम बताऊं पोएट्स के उर्दू के
सितम तुम रहे न तुम हम रहे न हम वक्त ने किया क्या हसी सितम तुम रहे न तुम हम रहे न हम वक्त ने किया दिल ख्वाब दम बदम वक्त ने किया क्या हंसी सितम तुम रहे न तुम हम रहे न हम वक्त ने किया क्या हंसी सितम तुम रहे न तुम हम रहे न हम वक्त ने किया
to the pace which suits him, like the second song. As they say, an eternal song about togetherness or the not togetherness, and it's a song that as close as we can get to longing, loss, being here, not being here, love, no love, death, life, everything is captured in that very simple studio with minor little movements of light and shadow, and it's as close we get to a song that will always be part of India.
Shall I make one
Please.
sentence comment on this?
Please.
In my understanding of film music, Indian Hindi film music and Hindi film songs, this is the only song that I know. There may be another song, but this is the only one that I know, in which we are not seeing merely the song, but also the making of it. Making of it cinematically. I will stop here and maybe I'll come back.
Ravi, would you like to take it forward?
I'll elaborate on what he so beautifully said. Actually, of course, the camera is great, the black and white composition, the shadow and light, etc. But more importantly, the editing also, tries to keep pace with the song. So while the music director has done one thing, he's done full justice to the song itself. But here is the camera person and the director also, who has composed it in a certain way. Beautiful, very subtle lyrics. There is no blame game, right? So this Waqt fellow, right? I mean, destiny, taqdeer, etc. Poets had several names for these. But Waqt does something here. Waqt is playing on us, has done a huge kind of kya se kya bana diya, etc. But we lost ourselves in the journey that we have undertaken. It's one of the best pieces of poetry. Kafi Saab, we talked about him yesterday as well. Very subtle and
Antara?
Sorry, okay. When we talk about textbook cinema and we talk about, earlier in the discussion, in the previous discussion, we were talking about what would you tell your students, which song to watch to learn the craft of cinema. This is perhaps one of the best ever examples, as Madanji said, the making of it. Because I read in one book that V.K. Murthy said that, people told me that the attention, your photography is grabbing so much attention that we forgot the context of the film, kind of thing. So here again, that journey you talk about, again that use of that cart as the symbol, and that is again reflective of Devdas, the last journey of Devdas, when he takes the cart. So why use only that cart? There could have been other things, but he uses that cart. And these one song where everything is said without the characters saying anything. And it is just that those very simple words, but very poignant, very deep. Kafi Saab said that the lines that he wrote, Guru Dutt did not like. So he said, no, I don't like this, come again. So then he said that, okay, give me some time, let me make another try. And then he came back with these words, and what a masterpiece. And I believe everybody in this entire scenario have taken this as giving their best ever shot. Because the way Geeta Dutt sings, I don't think anybody else could have put in that kind of emotion in that song. The way she kind of, maybe she's talking about her own self or something, God only knows. But the way she emotes those lyrics, it just takes it to another plane. And Dada Burman, knowing that Geeta will be at the microphone, he uses those kind of cellos and all to accentuate her voice, and that bhav गायकी जो गीता की खासियत थी उसको उभार के लाते हैं इसमें. Of course, we have read reams on the use of the mirror and the light and how the reflection comes and everything. But the way those two souls come and merge within that light in a different realm, in a different sphere, away from the society, where these two human beings, they are constrained by society, but their souls are not. So they come and merge within that light. The way it is picturized, I don't think anybody needs to really, it's encapsulating that film in that one song.
There's also another way of looking at it, that if in real life the relationship between Vaida and Guru Dutt was not what it was perceived to be, none of these cinematic effects would have that emotional power, that symbolic power. So it's the confluence of so many forces which are not intended to come together, but come together because of the authenticity of the creative journey. So, if Madan, you want to expand on your, you've got.
So, two things. Let me first say the less serious thing. No, the less serious thing. If I was doing this song, I would never use that woolen ball.
Yarn. I think that was
It's a huge letdown. क्या कर रहे हो यार? बुन रहे हैं ख्वाब, and suddenly you pick up this thing. So that is my only objection.
But
now to come to the more
simplicity
serious
is also
part.
important, Babu. That simplicity, the naivety of the heart,
Okay.
वो बस आ जाता है.
Okay. Okay. I'm coming to the more. आप कुछ कह रहे हैं? तो मैं कुछ और जो है कह रहा हूँ. I have known the engagement with time in cinema in two ways. One is the assembled time, which is the regular editing kind of thing. The other is to let the time be, which is what we know as duration. So that's, but this one is neither assembled time, nor is it a durative. It's a third dimension. I do not have a name for this. For reasons of inadequacy, I will call it time as being. Maybe I don't know. It's a very inadequate sort of expression.
So
It is,
Babu.
huh?
Come in. Just
But
like
I mean,
you said.
because he is taking you through a non-real, what seems to be a non-real world. What seems to be a non. If you've seen very recent films of Finch, for instance, then you would know that you know, that is where it was first done. I mean, it's amazing, you know, that kind of, when I look at that kind of a bridge, it's mind-boggling. I mean, that man is doing things, you know, which are, I mean, he's dealing with artifacts, जो studio में होते हैं. He's dealing with light, the way light is used in cinema. And there is no realistic sort of, you know, this thing. And he's going into a time frame which is not immediately available, which is experiential time frame. It cannot be assembled, and it cannot be, it cannot be sort of reproduced as duration, because that will be too long. So he's finding a third way, which is why I said that this is the only song that I know, except my inadequacy. Maybe Fellini has done in one of his songs, one of his this thing, but the only reference that I have where you actually see the making of the song as cinema. I mean, it absolutely. I mean, there are certain songs, you know, by S.D. Burman, where you actually see you're not just hearing a pleasant sound being produced. You actually see the song being made bit by bit, if you are attentive.
You know, the closest song that resonates in the energy to this is one from Mosam, Dil Dunta Hai. You know, if you go through that song, you have that same kind of feeling of duration not being duration, assembly not being assembly, and yet maybe not the making, more here the revelation.
Absolutely.
Of time.
Absolutely. You know, this he does again and again. For instance, in a song, he creates the song as a maze. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. वो चलता जाता है. You don't know where the stanza, where the refrain is and where the stanza is.
How did that tune come into here? I lost.
इसमें तो हमने जो पहला गाना देखा है, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर नहीं, वो पहला जो था, हाँ, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर जो कहाँ है. In that, if you know, he is just using, and you mentioned that, एक हल्का सा punctuation है, है ना, and then he breaks it with, as she's very rightly pointed out, with a Hawaiian guitar. तो आपको पता लगता है, अच्छा ये कर क्या रहा है भैया? Then you get to know that he is, I mean, he's just taking you like this very simply. It looks very simple. It's not so simple to be able to do the song this minimally. The minimalist जो हमारे S.D. Burman has not been given his due. He has not been. Everyone talks about R.D. Burman. R.D. Burman is a genius, no doubt. But S.D. Burman is doing the kind of things that, you know, when I look at that, there are a few, composers, and I must name them. They have influenced me very deeply. One is Jyotirendra Moitro in both Meghadhaka Tara and Komal Gandhar. And the other is S.D. Burman. There is a third one also. Khemchand Prakash, of course, but there is a third one. And the third one is also from Bengal, and his name is Shalil Chaudhary. Shalil Chaudhary, you know, when I look at a song like Suhana Safar or Ye Mausam Haseen, you know what he's doing when the technology of reverberation is not available to you? He is using something out of the extraordinary, out of the box. Oh, ho, ho. Now he has to specialize that. How does he do that? He follows it up with a chorus in feminine voice. Oh, ho, ho. Suddenly the song is specialized. आप जानते हैं कि उस वक्त हमारे पास ये टेक्नोलॉजी अवेलेबल नहीं है. These are the people, we have to understand, what they were doing.
All of them. Well, it's been a long, of course.
One thing that all these songs, the poetry is so deep in imagery. Sorry, it's so deep in imagery that even if you don't watch the song, you can actually visualize what is happening on the screen.
That was radio.
That is exactly
and that's
that.
how
poetry.
the legacy has.
So deep in imagery, it's amazing. The kind of they make you think. So I just wanted to add that.
Immodest comment कर दूं मैं.
Bilkul, Babu, we need.
I have to praise myself. So when I was composing music for Song of the Scorpions, Anup Singh's film, I happened to spend about 7-8 days with Wahida ji. और उस दौरान जो हुआ है वो उसका कभी फिर जिक्र करेंगे. आज वो बड़ा लंबा जिक्र हो जाएगा. लेकिन there were many things that we discussed about these films. And she did sing one song for me, which we recorded.
I don't think Guru Dutt even had that distinction.
She's a very good singer.
I mean, Vaida never sang for Guru
Oh,
Dutt.
she sang for me.
That's what I'm saying. No, you are in a privileged
She sang
position.
my composition.
And thank you, everyone. It's been a long evening. Thank you, Madan. Thank you, Juhi. Thank you, Antara. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, all of us. Thank you, the team. Good night.